Good morning. Welcome to Diane's Kitchen. No, it's not a cooking show. This is a place that we discuss things, sit down. You never know where the conversation's going to go. You never know who's going to be in the kitchen or this morning remotely and what we're going to talk about. First of all, I want to tell you we've got a brand new sponsor. We are excited about Barron Electric and what they're doing. Barron Electric Co-op has been providing reliable power for 85 years, serves over 18,000 members. Proud to be a part of our community. And I'm proud of the work they're doing, too, especially with their butterfly habitats. How creative of them. My guest this morning, Liz, what's your last name?
Jirschele.
Jirschele. Ooh, cool. Today we're going to talk about ta-da! Hearts. Last time I was on the air was September last year, and I didn't stop because of COVID. I stopped because after my broadcast, I had a heart attack. Fortunately, I had it at the ER. I mean, if you're going to have a heart attack, you might as well do it at the ER. So within an hour, I was on my way to Eau Claire, Sacred Heart, stents, the whole thing. When it was all over, what was left for me was I was angry. I was really angry. Angry at myself, angry at anybody I could think of. Why didn't I realize I was such a candidate? Liz, does the American Heart Association find that this is common, that people just don't listen?
Well, we find that it's common that women have heart issues. So 1 in 3 women will actually, pay that price with their life with cardiovascular disease. So it's very, very common, especially in women. And I think as women, we tend to brush off, signs and symptoms as being, I have a cold or I have the flu or I'm just tired. I'll do it. I'll go to the doctor after I get the laundry done.
Exactly.
So I think that's why it really affects us more in different ways. And we sometimes miss those signs and symptoms and brush them off as something else.
I was reading through some of the signs and symptoms for women. You know, every time you see a heart attack, it's a guy and he grasps his chest or grabs his arm and you can tell he's having a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
But a woman, things like, jaw pain. How many women don't have a pain that just from clenching your teeth to make it through the day? Some of these are rather obscure things, but of course they've got to be listed.
Mm-hmm.
Even I knew something was wrong with me. I had an appointment to go to the clinic to get my blood pressure done because they were watching it. And I had a cake to decorate. I had a party to get ready for the next day. So I'm buzzing around the kitchen. But something made me take that cake when it was fully decorated and put it in the freezer. I wrote out a list of names of the coffee party attendees and left it on the table. Told my husband, just in case, have one of these ladies call everybody. So I knew it was something, but I was totally clueless as to what it was. Because my family has good hearts. There's no heart problems. Either side of my family, no matter how far back or how wide we go, there was nothing. Like I say, I was just shocked. I've talked to, my husband had a heart attack 3 months before I did. Since mine, I have 4 other friends who have ended up with heart things. All 3, 4 needed stents, and they all ended up in the ERs. Is anybody listening? Is it the American Heart Association? Maybe needs to relook at their advertising. Why aren't we more aware? The warning signs are everywhere. You hear them all the time. You do a good job. Watch your cholesterol, watch your weight. all the standard things. And yet we're not listening.
Mm-hmm.
So answer the big questions.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, the fact that you had your heart attack in the ER, that's really good to hear. You also mentioned that you have, you were decorating the cake. You felt like something was off. And I think that is one of the first things that we need to start telling women in our life. If you feel off at all, be an advocate for your health, get to the ER immediately. As you mentioned, the signs and symptoms showed up a little bit different. So you can have that jaw pain, you can have some pain in your neck, your wrists. I've talked to survivors that have had, just like wrist pain, or like they feel a little bit of numbness, shortness of breath. Any like nausea, vomiting, which I mean, that's something that you can attribute to, oh, I have the flu, I'll be fine. I'm going to sleep it off.
Exactly.
Um, so I think being able to share stories like yours, or you can actually put it on a person and be like, this is what I had, this is what I experienced. That's really the most beneficial to get the word out. We can, as the American Heart Association, we have tons of resources. We promote on social media, we meet with media outlets, we talk with people like you, and really we find that the most beneficial stories to share are the actual survivors. So, somebody that can be able to put themselves in your shoes and be able to say like, oh, that could happen to me. I need to be a little bit more aware of when I'm feeling off. Um, and, we do a ton of advertising, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just like if your mom is telling you to do something and you're like, yeah, 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 yeah. But when you hear it from like a friend or your brother or your sister, you're
Suddenly it
like,
has worth
okay,
and value.
yeah, yeah. So, we do have a support network with our organization online where we have survivors come on and they can share stories and interact with each other and just have that sense of community. I mean, when you have a heart attack or you have a heart condition, whether you're born with it, whether it comes up later in life, you experience a lot of things. Like you said, you were really angry, and we hear that a lot with survivors. You're angry because you're like, why me? Why did this happen to me? I didn't, you said that you had no family history, so you weren't necessarily looking for that to happen. So being able to connect, have that sense of community, be able to share stories is so important. And really, it means more when it comes from survivors and fighters like you, rather than from the top
Mm-hmm.
organization.
Mm-hmm.
Really finding those individuals that are willing to share their stories. I mean, this is a great opportunity to let people know a little insight into what you experienced.
Something that I realize we live in a different world today, and people have to be very careful about what they tell you, what they say. I would, now, when you go to the dentist, they take your blood pressure, which they never did before. Now they do. And the comment was, it's a little high. You should keep an eye on that. I don't know how many times I was told that. Nobody said what that meant. Just, you should keep an eye on that. I would go to the clinic. Well, it's a little high. You should keep your eye on that. And maybe it's because you're anxious about being here. I thought, I'm not anxious about being here, either the dentist or the clinic or anywhere. They gave me these warnings and these vague suggestions. I had no clue how important blood pressure was. I had no clue that the four biggest things was weight, activity, cholesterol numbers, and your blood pressure. I can't remember the last time I had my cholesterol done.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was that important. Now I understand its importance. But somehow in my brain, because my family has good hearts, I didn't have to worry about these things. The four other people that have had heart events since mine said the same thing, and one of them is in the medical profession. What barriers do we need to break down to make women realize, no. These are 4 of the most important numbers in your life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, really encouraging women to be an advocate. So, you just mentioned you went to the dentist. You're like, oh, it's a little high. Maybe digging into that. What does that mean? So, American Heart Association recommendations are having a blood pressure 120/80. So anything that's higher than that on either side should be, um, you know, you should be made aware of, and really understanding those numbers. So it's the barriers with that are you get your blood pressure taken when you go to an appointment, right? Like you're not taking your blood pressure every day.
Right.
There are, at home or blood pressure
Right.
monitoring kits, but it's not something that's given out by the doctors every single appointment.
No.
So you can buy those on your own, but I think it's really important that you also know some of the signs of when your blood pressure is really high or really low, or just exploring that with the doctor a little bit more. Like, can you tell me more about what I should be looking for specifically? This is what I've been experiencing. Is that something that has to do with my blood pressure? And then also the cholesterol, like you mentioned, that's a little bit more, invasive. You have to have, a blood test to be able to understand what your cholesterol is. So I think if that's something that you go to the doctor and you ask them about, like, can I get my cholesterol checked? I'm concerned. I'm a woman. Um, I've been feeling a little off, or I just want to know. Like, that's something certainly you can talk to your doctor about. I think, you know, it's easy to be like, oh, eat right and exercise. But kind of really diving into what does that mean? How does that affect my body? Knowing your family history is really important. But like you said, sometimes, heart events haven't happened in your family history. So I personally really, preach to women, please be an advocate for your health. If you feel like something's off, if you want to learn more about your body, talk to your doctors, and really get the information that you need
Right.
to be healthy
For
and
me,
prevent some of the stuff.
there was nothing off. I
Hmm.
didn't feel anything. I was fine. I was
Hmm.
absolutely fine. There was no reason. There was no jaw pain. There was no wrist pain. There was nothing that was, I wonder if this is something. All I heard was, your blood pressure's a little high. You need to keep an eye on that. I
Hmm.
wish somebody would have followed that up with, you might want to make an appointment with your doctor. But to tell somebody you need to keep an eye on that, what does that even mean? So I had no symptoms. I was fine, lots of energy, busy, going, doing, enjoying
Hmm.
life, and
Hmm.
not worried because of the good hearts in the family. I I was just absolutely bowled over. It's like, what?
Hmm.
This is what? I need 3 stents? How did this
Yeah.
happen? And I wish I could just somehow be terribly creative. I was thinking, how they have these quizzes all the time in magazines? They should do a heart quiz. How much
Hmm.
overweight are you? When's the last time you had your cholesterol checked? Of course, do you have a history of heart problems? How much activity do you get? Really get? I don't mean getting off the sofa and getting something to eat and sitting back down. I don't even mean trotting around doing the laundry and, or the excuse that, well, it's winter. In the summer, I get more because I go outside. When you look at what the American Heart Association has down for activities, it's not getting up and getting a snack. It's
Hmm.
it's exercise. It's getting that heart, which is a muscle, pumping.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. That's where my frustration is. All these people suddenly, every time you turn around, another one of your friends, older or considerably younger, is having a heart event. Is it frustrating for the American Heart Association to get the word out for people to take this seriously?
I wouldn't say it's frustrating. It's just we have a real sense of urgency to get this information out. We've found that 80% of cardiac events can be prevented, and so we want to be able to prevent some of those cardiac events.
80%?
80%. Granted, there's some genetic stuff. There's other family history that you can't
Right.
control. But I think a really good takeaway, and kudos to you for sharing your story, is that now people that are listening to this will maybe think, okay, the doctor told me my blood pressure is a little high. I should really pay attention to that. I should really ask them, what should I be looking for? Should I get a at-home blood pressure monitoring kit? Should I, go to the pharmacy and get my blood pressure taken? They have those little kiosks and stuff. So I think that is really beneficial to people that are listening to this right now. If you get that little red flag of, your blood pressure is a little high, you should keep an eye on it, really dive into what that actually means and what you need to do to, be able to prevent something bigger down the line.
So be your own health advocate.
Absolutely.
Take charge of your body, and if it says lose some weight, lose some weight. If it says you've
Yeah.
got to get more activity, they're not kidding. They mean activity. They don't
Yeah.
mean necessarily going to the gym, because you can buy tapes. You remember all that stuff you had to do in high school, PE classes. Do those, jumping jacks, whatever it takes. You've got to get your heart going. You've got to take
Yeah.
life seriously.
Yeah,
Or,
and you can, and really, when we say physical activity, it doesn't have to be an hour and a half workout class. Like,
right.
we recommend at least 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity in a week. So you can get up and go for a 25-minute walk. Get on your stationary bike and just ride that while you're. There's just really a lot of easy ways to get in that physical activity. Like you said, it's not walking to the fridge, but you can make it easy throughout your day where it's not something that really takes up a ton of your time.
And I think if you're serious about this, you'll find the time. You'll do. I know a lot of people that I know say, well, you know how expensive it is to visit the doctor if you can even get in during this COVID thing? And I said, do you know how much a helicopter ride costs for 20 minutes? It's phenomenal. You could almost buy the helicopter by the time you're finished with the ride. A cholesterol test comes in as coffee money when you compare it with the costs that you could incur with a heart problem. One of the statistics that just blew my mind was 44 million women die of heart disease every year. That's more than cancer. More than cancer. And you said that 80% of these can be avoided by life change and medication. That is staggering. 80% could be avoided.
Right.
So why aren't we doing a better job as people, consumers, citizens? Why aren't we getting more alarmed? Why aren't we going, well, I really don't get much exercise and I could lose 10, 20, 30 pounds, but, my cholesterol numbers are good and I have good hearts in my family, so,
Yeah, I think it, goes back to, it's not going to happen to me. I feel great. I've personally talked to survivors that are in their 20s, they're athletes in college, and they had a heart attack.
Wow.
Granted, that was, she had some genetic stuff in her family, but still, like, it can affect anybody at any age. And you had mentioned before, you see the patented, like, men on TV grabbing their chest and feeling that, that pain in their chest, but it shows itself in different ways, in different people, in men and women. And so I think it's one of those things where it's like, I can't picture myself having something until I see somebody else having that is the same as me, having that same issue. So I think, just again, sharing your story is so important. Unfortunately, you had the actual heart attack, but the fact that you can share some of the things, I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? So looking back, now you can say, this is where I felt off. My blood pressure was bringing a little bit of a red flag. So being able to share that is just the way to get the word out. I mean, you're going to listen to your friends and family before you listen to anybody else. So
That's
I
true.
think,
That's
yeah, so
true.
I think, spreading awareness that way is really, really important. And I mean, it's so hard to tell people to go to the doctor if they're feeling off, because we all feel off all the time. And
Sure we do.
especially this past year, a lot of people are dealing with staying at home, working at their computer desks all day, not, interacting with anybody, showing, having like mental health problems arise. And there's just a lot of things that have happened in this past year. So I think it's really important now more than ever to be able to pay attention to your body, your mind, what you're putting into what you're putting into your body nutritionally, how much you're getting for physical activity. I know in Wisconsin it's hard to get out in the winter, especially lately. So really finding those things around the house that you can do, working out with your kids. It can be a dance party. It doesn't have to require equipment. It doesn't have to be a gym membership. Finding things that you can do around the house that really gets your heart rate elevated.
And just the importance of it. It's not just, well, you should do these things and you'll, yeah, try.
Hmm.
I think we need to get past the just try. I think we need to get serious about what we eat and our activity level and how we treat our person, how we treat our bodies. Before I would go any further, I just want to mention once again, thank you, Baron Electric. You have been a reliable power source for 85 years in the community. That's saying something. Now, Liz, you are in Milwaukee or Madison?
I'm in Madison.
Madison. Ooh, lucky you. That's where everything happens.
Yes.
The American Heart Association, do you have suggestions as to how much? How much sodium you should have a day? How much fiber you should have a day? Where would somebody find those things? Say they're watching this and thinking, you know, maybe I should start taking care of myself, whatever age you're in.
Hmm.
Because you know, like I do, that after a girl hits puberty, it's all downhill. And it's all downhill for the rest
Yeah.
of your life.
Hmm.
One thing after another, after another, after another, after another. And maybe it's time to take stock and look at yourself and do something. So not only is it things like physical activity, but what are you putting in your mouth? Does
Hmm.
the American Heart Association have any information on don't go over this number, don't go over that number when it comes to sodium and
Yep.
cholesterol and
Yep. So we have tons of resources at www.heart.org. We have healthy recipes. We have information on cholesterol. What is cholesterol? Blood pressure. How should I be monitoring my blood pressure? What should my blood pressure numbers be? Questions you can ask your doctor. Um, we really focus on lowering sodium and lowering added sugars. So, decreasing the amount of sodium, not putting added salt on your foods, cutting back on sodas if you like to drink soda, cutting back on those sugary beverages,
okay,
and promoting water. Yes.
stop there for a minute. What what role does salt and sugar have to play in your health?
Hmm. So sodium can increase your blood pressure, and then sugar
How?
is by constricting your blood vessels. And granted, I'm not a medical professional, so I can't get
Right.
into that too deep. But then, added sugar is you add to your blood sugar, so that can bring on diabetes as well. Not saying you're going to get diabetes if you drink sugar,
Right.
sugary beverages, but in increasing your added sugar, we get enough in our day that we don't need to be adding in tons of sugar to our diet. Um, and then also, I would mention that added sugar is different than eating a fruit. Uh, Fruit has fructose, so that is naturally occurring in the fruit. So when you see, someone saying that you're eating an apple, so you're having added sugar, that's not added sugar. Added sugar is something like eating a candy bar or eating a chocolate chip cookie. And we really don't want to say you can't have any of that stuff, but being able to have that stuff in moderation, and paying attention to what you're actually putting into your body is really important.
So 6 or 8 or 10 cookies and a glass of milk is a little much.
Yeah, that would be a little much.
So cut down the sugar, cut down the salt, because from what I understand, what is happening is all the stuff that you eat that is bad for you starts to build up. It's obviously called plaque. And the little runway that your blood needs to go through gets thinner and thinner and thinner, and pretty soon there's no place for your blood to go through. And then you have a heart event, and then you go in, and then they open it up with stents. And the idea is to not clog up. And if you had a choice, why would you? Because once you've got the plaque, it never goes away. It's not like all this medicine that you're now on is going to magically take it away. The rotor-rooter, everything's going to be fine. No, it doesn't work that way. You still have the opportunity to build up plaque. I remember my first follow-up with the surgeon, and I said, when do I have my second heart attack? And he looked at me and said, why did you ask that? I said, because you often hear this. Yeah, I had a heart attack. Did you hear it? He had another one. Well, it was that third one that, killed him. So I'm wondering, why do people have second heart attacks? Why do people finally have a third heart attack? And you hear this very often. And I thought, I don't want to be one of those people. Once was enough. It was very interesting, very informative. I've learned a lot. I've changed a lot. But I should have changed before. I should have done this before it got critical. Is that something that you find the attitude of most people? It's not going to happen to me?
Yeah, we hear that a lot. When talking to survivors, we hear, I've also talked with like medical professionals that have had heart issues, and they're like, I'm a doctor and I had this. I should have known the signs and symptoms. But I think it's just that big mental hurdle of getting over the fact that it's not going to happen to me, or that's just the flu. It's so hard to do. I know that. And I keep reiterating, but it's so important sharing stories like yours, so that people can be able to put a face to it rather than just statistics, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Well, like I say, I have a friend who's a doctor, been a doctor for a long time, and had a heart event and was just shocked because of the 4, to me, most important things, because I don't have a history. He was not overweight. He did not have a bad diet, but still, 2 out of 4, that wasn't enough. I don't know how often a doctor takes care of himself and does a cholesterol check. But he wasn't, I don't know, he just wasn't aware. I wasn't aware. There's a lot of people watching this that are totally clueless. They're within an hour of having a heart attack themselves. And this is something that once it's happened, you can't be cured. You're constantly going to have to now take care of yourself. You should. Why aren't we doing it now? That's my biggest problem. Why aren't women more? I understand why women don't have the time, because we're women. The last thing on my mind, the last thing on every woman's mind is herself. because she's got kids, she's got a job, she's got. I can live through this pain. I can live through this whatever. I don't need to get up. People need to get to their doctors just for a wellness check.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we do that? How do we get women more aware of you're important and you need to start taking care of what could happen to you tomorrow? Wouldn't it be wonderful if you could avoid a heart attack? The thing that kills most women in the United States? And you could avoid it. Or you could have one and end up with all the restrictions it brings and with all the medication that it brings.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a certain amount of frustration at the American Heart Association dealing with this? I mean, what more can you do? You crank out information. You have Go Red for women or Wear
Go
Red?
Red for Women, yep.
This is the Heart Month. It's February.
Mm-hmm. Do
you feel like you're making a difference? I mean, you can only put it out there. You can't make people listen.
Mm-hmm. I definitely feel like we're making a difference. I do think that there is tons more work to be done, of course. Just the education, I mean, speaking from my personal experience, my mom recently had a stroke. And because of my work with the American Heart Association, I knew what signs and symptoms to look for, and I knew that she was having that event, and I told her to go to the doctor right away. So I think even people around you, educating them so that if they see something off with you too, to be able to say, you need to go to the doctor or go to the ER. I'm taking you right now. Call 911. So I think even if your sister is not going to have a heart attack, but you have her educated in, the signs and symptoms of a heart attack or stroke, I think that is just the way that we can really spread the message. I think if we knew what the answer was to make every single person aware and advocate for their health, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So I think it's an ongoing process. I wouldn't say I'm frustrated because I do see the success stories as well as the survivor stories. So there is that balance, but I think there's constantly work to be done, and we really lean on our volunteers and our advocates for the American Heart Association to really get that message out.
And I think most effectively, especially for me now, is me talking to my friends, to other people, other women, and let them know, no, this is serious stuff, and I don't care if you do have good hearts in your family and nobody has ever had a problem. Doesn't mean you're not going to. So maybe start with things that don't involve your doctor if you can't get in or if you can't afford to get in. Up your exercise. Take a look at your diet. Get rid of all the what are the fats called? The bad fats.
The saturated fats.
Yeah, those.
Yep.
Look at labels. Thank goodness we have labels on anything you want to buy. There's a label on it. Check it out. See how much fiber is in it. Fiber should be much more than, let me see if I've still got that, 48 grams of fiber a day. That's almost non-existent in people's diets because there is no fiber. I mean, they've taken the fiber out of bread. They've taken fiber out of everything. Learn to know what good snacks are. How about a tangerine and a handful of nuts? It's not going to be as good as a piece of banana cream pie, but it's going to save your life. So maybe it's time to change what you can change and then get to your doctor. Go for a wellness check. Find out your numbers. Have them do the tests. Just keep in mind, it's your life. And even if you live through one of these, everything will be changed. So why not change it before you have to? It would be nice. Liz, any parting words?
I would just say thank you to you for sharing your story, for having me on to help spread awareness and education. And of course, as I mentioned before, if you have anything else you want to research or dive into, just visit our website. We have tons of resources and facts.
And that is one more time
www.heart.org.
heart.org. How easy is that? You don't even have to put the www in anymore. Everybody's on the World Wide Web. So heart.org.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Liz. And thank you, Barron Electric Co-op. We really appreciate you. Thanks for being here for 85 years of faithful service, 18,000 members. You're proud of being part of the community. We're proud to have you as a sponsor. So until next time, from Diane's Kitchen, keep it cooking.